Hi guys, welcome back to another week of Art Life. In this week's episode, we are exploring the next release of 10 new colours from Michael Harding oil paints. They're called the Brick Lane set. Now, Michael Harding oils are commemorating 40 years of being in business, and the first selection, if you saw our episode on the Tunbridge Well collection, we did a little mixing episode where we played with the 10 new colours and explored them, sort of marking the origin, if you will, of Michael Harding's journey into making oil paints. So the new collection that we are going to be exploring today, this is brand new. It's called the Brick Lane collection, and it commemorates when Michael got basically started mixing professionally and selling in London at Atlantis Art Store, which is my favourite art supply store next to Jackson's. I used to go there as a student all the time. It's like a beautiful kind of wonderland of painting materials in East London. So yeah, Brick Lane for the location in East London, which at the time sounded like a thriving hub for artists in East London. So this I'm really excited to explore. It looks like the colours have a lot of transparency and luminosity. I'm really excited just to get stuck in. Okay, first of all, we're going to start with yellow Benzimidazolone. That's quite a mouthful. I haven't actually worked with a Benzimidazolone, say that a few times so you can get it right, so I'm quite excited to explore this colour. Okay, let's move here. So, I mean, really rich, juicy yellow. Got the pigment in that. Right, how should we play with it? Let's add a little bit of warm white first of all, just to see what happens. Okay, so a little bit of white, quite an icy kind of lead tin tone to it. Oh, it's a very cool yellow. Buttercup almost. Really vibrant. It could be a lovely replacement for a cadmium yellow for someone who's looking for a bit of a change. Okay, so really buttery. Let's do something to just explore the colour a bit more, however. In the Brick Lane set, there is a Quinacridone purple. Let's just see what happens when we add a complementary colour. Just to explore. Okay, so a really beautiful, warm, sort of, almost like a terracotta brown. Oh, it's so gingery. That's gorgeous. The warmth of the yellow really shines, and there's such a lovely transparency to it. Then sort of explore it down here maybe with a little bit of the white. There's so much you could do with that yellow. Okay, so next in the collection we have New Gamboge, which feels like it's going to be a very loose, translucent yellow. What does it sound like? A little reminder on the back of every tube as well. It lets you know the drying time, the pigment density, and the kind of tint power as well. So there's obviously a lot of information when you get like a big selection of new paints, and just if you ever get confused, check on the back and it does let you know drying time and a little bit more about the alchemy of the paint. So let's explore New Gamboge. So, ooh, very sort of smooth, loose, transparent colour here. Oh, that'd be lovely in a glaze. You can really see through the yellow. If we kind of make it a bit more opaque with a bit of white, it sort of makes it into more of a block of the colour, so you can really see the actual shade of yellow, which looks much cooler than the previous yellow. Almost got notes of brown sort of a greeny brown yellow. Really earthy. What would be quite fun is to maybe explore it. So it already feels quite green. If we added maybe a little bit of green gold to see how the green reacts. And now that's another transparent green gold, because, you know, mixing our sort of transparents together. Let's just see what happens. So it just blends really well. It almost looks like it's kind of part of the makeup of the same colour. So that's a very like gentle, maybe if we add a bit of white to see actually. So it really actually just sort of supports it. It doesn't really do that much to it to add the green gold. So it's very similar to green gold. Wow. Yeah, that kind of gorgeous golden translucent colour. Let's do, so it's quite similar to green gold, huh? Okay, so let's be a little bit more dramatic. Let's add some of this Opera Rose that we're going to be exploring in a minute. Let's add a bit of this Opera Rose and see what happens when we warm it up with the new gamboge. I mean, you get a lovely burnt orange there. It's the colour of sunsets. That's gorgeous. So here I'm just tinting slightly the gamboge. It's a very transparent gold. So it really just makes and warms up and adds like a luminosity to any colour you're mixing. Yeah, liquid light, that one. I'll happily use that, I think. Gorgeous. Okay, next colour. So with the Benzimidazolone, I think it's semi-opaque. It does have a translucent quality, but there's such a pigment-rich density to the paint that it's not quite as translucent as the gamboge. So let's mix it with a bit of white from over here, just because I think then you really just get a, oh gosh, what's that purple doing there? You get a real sense of the kind of high end of the spectrum of colour. So with the white, it makes almost like a peach. Really beautiful kind of peach. It's quite stiff, so I think it would, a little bit of linseed oil would make this go a long way. Gorgeous, like peachy, earthy kind of orange there would be kind of really beautiful in any portraits, or even kind of the warmer tones when you need like to warm up a bit of a landscape. Really beautiful colour. So let's explore with maybe a slightly different end of the spectrum. If we add perhaps, I think we should add a little bit of blue. Let's go for phthalo blue with a bit of titanium white, just to like be random. So say we got a little bit of phthalo blue, just because I think these colours look, let's make some space. I think these colours look really beautiful together. Let's see if they mix well together. I'm kind of interested in making a really like gorgeous grey. Oh, that's like buttery charcoal. Oh, that's a really beautiful grey. Obviously there's the white in there with the phthalo. But let's just make it, let's just pump it up a bit. Make some more. So the orange just feels like, it's incredibly subtle. But I think that's a really beautiful kind of shadow. Oh, I love that. Maybe just mixing a bit of white just to kind of push, just see if we can stretch out. Oh, you could just get completely lost with this orange. It makes the most beautiful grey browns. I think it's really important to mix these kind of like shadow tones as well. Always just mixing like the brightest colours these are the colours, the mid-tones, where you usually kind of exist in your paintings. Oh, that's such a lovely shadow colour. So warm with the orange. I'd happily use that in some of my cloudscapes. I think that's gorgeous. It's so different from that peach when you just mix it with white. Okay, so the next colour in our collection that we are going to be exploring is Quinacridone Coral. I'm very excited about this because I am very fond of my Quinacridone Gold and my Quinacridone Rose, which I've already worked with Michael Harding colours. So maybe we can compare them a little bit or just blend them together and see how the Quinacridone Coral compares. I find the Quinacridones very translucent. Again, I love translucent kind of pigments because they just blend so beautifully and they allow light through, usually in the final layers of painting, when you've done all of your kind of opaque colours first and you just need everything to have a bit of a tint. So very similar to the rose, but maybe slightly more yellow. We'll have to compare. Just for giggles, I'll show you a bit of the Quinacridone with white, because I always think it just allows you to see the colour. I need to probably add a bit more just so you can see it on the camera. So this is white, and the tiniest bit of Quinacridone goes so far. But you can see compared to the orange, much bluer, much cooler than the peachier tones of the orange. But really fun to just have a little look at maybe Quinacridone Gold and Quinacridone Rose. So this is the new, so these are the two Quinacridones that we already have, or I already have from my Michael Hardings. So let's just see how they're different. So I think the Quinacridone Rose is much sort of, maybe not, much more fluorescent pink. And the rose, compared to the gold here, which again looks like hot orange, much more golden. Yeah, so you can just see the difference. Maybe if we mix a little bit of the Quinacridone Coral with the Quinacridone Gold. I might do a separate video for this actually, because I feel like we're going to get way too deep into the Quins. But you could just really, maybe like a little bit of white. Let's just see what it does. Ooh, so the Quinacridone Coral is so beautiful, and that gold really brings it out with a little bit of white. Look at that. That's a lovely shade. Really juicy, really like a ripe peach. Absolutely stunning. I think the Quinacridone Coral, I would happily use that. Obviously, when we mix it perhaps with maybe more cooler colours, we could make some lovely purples, we could make some gorgeous greys. Maybe it's something to explore in a later episode, but for now we're just meeting these colours and having a little bit of a play. Nothing too shocking. But okay, let's return to the Opera Rose now. I might just, I did start to use it here. Let's just bring it over here for a sec. So this is the most fluorescent kind of pink I have ever seen in a paint, in an oil paint. I've seen this kind of colour in acrylic. I've seen it in sort of spray paint. I've never seen it in an oil medium. It's unbelievably bright. I hope it comes out on camera. It's just fluorescent. Let's get a little bit of white. So let's just see first of all, when we mix it with a tiny bit of white, what happens, just to compare it to the Quinacridone Coral. Very similar to the coral, but much pinker, much brighter, kind of candy floss pink. Delicious, really nice if you want a clean, vibrant, slightly cooler pink than the Quinacridone Coral, which has much sort of warmer tones. I mean, that is just so fun. And I think that's a good word for this Brick Lane kind of range of colours that I'm finding. They're just really fun. They're luminous at the moment. I'm finding them really kind of easy to blend and mix. They're very subtle as well. They're not kind of, I mean, the Opera Rose is a kind of quite a shocking pink, but mixes so beautifully. So I want to do something, what can we do with this colour? Let's do something quite outrageous. What if we mixed it with like a turquoise? What would happen? I've got some cobalt teal. Let's try it with some kind of a turquoise, and maybe let's try it with, let's try it with a green as well, or maybe let's just try it with the yellow, hang on, let me pronounce it right, Benzimidazolone. Yeah, let's just play, because there's something about this Opera Rose which does feel quite theatrical. Maybe the next step will be actually going back to the factory with Michael Harding and exploring how the colours are made. Love to see this, a big vat of this colour. So with a little bit of turquoise, we have a really, of that cobalt teal, really mature, almost like cerulean blue. Look at that. I would not have imagined that Opera Rose and turquoise created such a like gentle, almost like salty blue. That's really beautiful. Ah, how interesting. I wasn't expecting that kind of grey blue. Well, what else can we try? Why don't we mix it for something different? Yeah, let's mix it with the yellow here. Just because it's just such a this colour feels like it just transforms. Okay, so neon orange immediately with very little effort. You just get you get hot orange. It's such a hot, sexy colour though. Beautiful. Now for the next 5, we're going more into purples and blues. So we've had a very warm palette so far. So we've got, next colour, another Quinacridone, Quinacridone purple. So let's see how the Quinacridone purple compares to Quinacridone coral, which is also in the collection. And let's also maybe perhaps mix it with the Quinacridone rose and the Quinacridone gold, which we experimented with earlier. So first of all, very transparent, holds a lot of light, quite similar to perhaps the manganese violet. Very different to the kind of other purples that I've got of Michael Harding's, which are the wisteria and lavender, which are much more opaque. Maybe if we mix it with a little bit of white, just to see what happens. That kind of high value. Oh, a very warm purple. Really rich. I mean, that's gorgeous. Really fun. I think that could be a lovely base for some kind of really shadowy greys. If you mixed a little bit of blue in there. Which we definitely can. We've got some blue here, which we'll be using a little bit later. Let's just explore. And just to see, so if we mix the blue, just see, almost like an indigo. So you can play with the shades when you add the blue or red if you want it cooler or warmer. I'm just cooling it down, but keeping it quite light, quite playful, not making it too dense as a colour. It's a really gorgeous indigo, really fun. I'm finding this colour is really fun. If we add the complementary, let's get a bit more there. If we add the complementary yellow to purple, to see what kind of shade we can get. Maybe if we add a little bit of the new gamboge actually, because that's a very translucent colour. I feel like it's going to make some kind of mystery gold. Ooh, okay, a very red. Look at that, with that new gamboge. Oh, wow. almost like this kind of shiny red, mahogany brown. Gorgeous in a glaze. I almost want to stretch this colour out with a little bit of the Michael Harding Miracle Medium, just to see how this would glaze. I'm going to add a very little bit here just to play. You don't need much, it goes so far. So if we just see when we stretch it out as if you were painting, I mean, look at that. The new Gamboge and the Quinacridone purple. A really gorgeous colour. Beautiful. And interesting to see how it perhaps is different from the Quinacridone coral. It feels like it would work really well with the Quinacridone coral. Maybe quickly, I'll just explore before we move on to the next colour. Just mixing the two Quinacridones just to see. Ah, wow, look at that. You have violet flames. Oh, that's unbelievable. It holds so much light, such a joyful colour. Love that. I have a confession to make. I don't tend to use that much purple in my practice because I work a lot in sort of seascapes, skyscapes perhaps in a sort of thunderstorm. But that's so rich and so warm. I think I'd happily use that colour. Brilliant. Okay. Moving on. So next in our collection is Ultramarine Pink, which is quite an interesting name for what I would sort of not think as a pink, but it's actually a purple. But let's explore. Ultramarine Pink. So there must be a lot of red in this one. So again, on the back it said average drying time, transparent. So this is going to be another very transparent colour. I mean, already I can totally understand why it's called Ultramarine Pink. Looks like a slightly more warmer purple. Lots more red in it. But the transparency sort of reminds me a little bit of Rose Madder. It'll be lovely to compare actually. I've got a bit of Rose Madder here. And then maybe I can get some ultramarines out and we can have a play. So this is the Rose Madder. Very sort of similar in the way it holds light. I usually use the kind of paint with this transparency for a tinting, a painting when it needs to be sort of warmer. But yeah, oh my god, that ultramarine pink is absolutely stunning. So if we add a little bit of white to it, just to add to the opacity, see what we're working with, you really then understand why it is called pink. Because although it's very cool, it is definitely not a purple. So that's almost like magic how that's happened. So I hope with the ultramarine pink, people who are in shops looking at colours, who don't like purple, say, or are afraid to use purple, don't get confused, because the moment you add a little bit of white, it becomes the most delicious, buttery, cool pink. Almost like a winter pink. So yeah, oh, let's just explore. Let's add a bit of the Rose Madder to that just to see what that does. Sort of makes a much, oh, like an earthier pink there if you wanted to warm it up. If it was a little bit too cool for you. Oh, but simply gorgeous. Look at that. Lovely. Why don't we add, so I think, what do I want to add? There's just so much choice. Let's add a little bit of green. See what happens when we add a little bit of green. So this is a green we're going to be talking about next, so keep it in the family. So just get a bit of green, ultramarine pink, let's add a bit more. Oh, so it's going into this really lovely transparent blue. Sorry, the green I chose was aqua green. So you've got a lovely transparent blue here, which is very unusual. The only other really transparent blue I've been using recently is the Caribbean turquoise. So it's lovely to have almost this sort of Prussian blue in transparent form. Ah, the pink, the brilliant pink. Ultramarine, sorry. The ultramarine pink is so subtle. You got a gorgeous blue out of that. That's so exciting. Ah, so a little bit of green with the ultramarine pink as well. Gave us a really lovely sort of midnight blue. How exciting. Cannot judge a book by its cover. Love that. Okay, so next colour that we should explore in the collection. Okay, so next colour in the Brick Lane collection, Blue Verditer. This looks like almost like a king's blue. It feels like there is white in here already, which is nice. It means we don't have to use any white. Very different to some of the transparent colours we've been working with so far in this new collection. Let's stretch it out and see. I mean, ooh, what a sort of lovely, bold sky blue. I mean, this would be really helpful if you just need to use a blue quick. You don't want to keep making it, keep mixing in with your whites, getting the right shade. It's very warm. There's obviously some lovely red tones underneath this blue. It's not icy at all. It's very friendly. And if we add a little bit of white, we can probably just see a higher value if we wanted to soften it slightly. You just get, oh, just such a lovely shade. Perfect for skyscapes. But also I feel like it would be a really beautiful kind of tone to just add instead of white, to use a pale version of this blue instead of white. Gorgeous. Oh, love that. So let's make a fun green. Why don't we use, I think we should use the gamboge because again, it's got a lovely transparency to it. So if I get some gamboge, I'm running low on that already. Let's try both yellows actually. Let's just see the difference between the yellow Benzimidazolone. Benzi. Let's use the yellow Benzi and the new gamboge. Just to play with two different yellows. Stretch them out, let's have a look, see what we've got with our lovely new blue. So the first green with the yellow Benzi. Ooh, okay, lovely opaque, warm green there. Lovely, sort of almost evokes the image of summer forest walks. That kind of dappled green. It's lovely and deep. And then with the gamboge to compare, a bit more translucency. Just a little bit richer, a little bit more translucent. Not much in it actually. Oh, that's interesting. Very similar. So obviously the blue. Obviously the blue Verditer is such a strong colour that it kind of knows what green it wants to be, which is quite fun. I mean, what would be really fun? If we just have a little cheeky, I know I should just not linger. I just love to see what happens with the Quinacridone coral, with a little bit of Quinacridone coral, just to see the kind of purple we'd get. Ooh, okay, very different to the ultramarine pink and the Quinacridone purple. Much warmer. Oh, that's so interesting. So that's the blue Verditer with the Quinacridone coral. Just makes a really lovely, bright, rich, warm purple. Okay, so now we did touch on this colour slightly, aqua green. So let's let's introduce ourselves properly to this colour. Oh my goodness. So, okay, we have a really luminous lagoon green here. Really deep. You can just see the stretch on that. Lovely and fluid. Gorgeous colour. Let's add a little bit of white just to test the shade that we're working with. Oh, it's like emerald. I think that, yeah, really beautiful bluey emerald green here. Much mintier though, so much mintier than the greens we were just mixing with the yellows and the blue provided by the Brick Lane set. So you have here a lovely kind of minty green. Trying to think if I have another Michael Harding colour that we could compare it to. So I think probably the closest colour I have to this green is phthalo green. Let me just have a little play and just explore the difference. Because I think it's really helpful, I think, just to check in. So similar to the phthalo, but I think it's bluer. Let's have a look. If we add a little bit of white to the phthalo green, what we get. So subtle difference to the phthalo green. The phthalo green is much less blue, I think. Yeah, you can, I think just, if you're looking for something slightly more teal, I think the aqua green feels like clear water in the kind of Caribbean, or there's just something electric about it, which I feel like elevates the colour from the phthalo. I think I prefer the aqua green just for that luminosity. Yeah, it's definitely the colour of emeralds. That's gorgeous, really beautiful. And finally, our last colour in the set is called Neutral Tint. So I feel like this is going to be a lovely base for a grey. Quite to have a sort of translucent, almost like replacement for my Payne's grey. Like shadow in a tube. Oh, I mean, gorgeous. Again, lovely sort of fluid stretch to the pigment. Really, it feels like the quality is absolutely delicious. We add a bit of white just to kind of like scale up to see the kind of grey we're working with. Okay, so quite blue.
Back.
Quite blue as a grey. It doesn't feel very warm. I mean, we really lovely. I'd be quite interested to see what would happen if we warmed it up, actually. So I think this would be a great tint if you needed to kind of play with the contrast of a painting you're working on. Oh my god, hold on, Ruth. So let's just see what happens when we warm it up slightly. I think what would be quite punchy is to see what would happen if we used the Opera Rose. What kind of colour we'd get. I mean, wow, okay, so the neutral tint really is strong. Just absorb that rose like a champ. Really very subtle. I think you'd have to add quite a lot more. Let's add a bit more and just see if we can get it feeling warm. Okay, so to make it kind of more purple, takes quite a lot. The neutral tint really feels like it knows what it wants. Okay, so I like it as a cool tone, I think. What would be quite interesting, just before we, finish, is just to maybe add a little bit of the neutral tint. So we've warmed it up slightly with the rose. I'd like to see it with maybe a warmer yellowy orange. So I think the orange, the Benzie, just to compare. See what, oh sorry. Always keep your palette now, please. So this, I feel like we'll get, yes, okay, so here now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so gorgeous rich brown, lovely burnt, kind of sort of burnt sienna almost. It's kind of richer than an umber. But that's a kind of, oh, look at that. A really beautiful warm brown. It's like chocolate. Okay, so we've found liquid chocolate. The Benzi orange and the neutral tint make chocolate. Gorgeous. So yeah, and I didn't need as much pigment with the Benzi orange. Love that brown. Heaven. So really you can play in any way you need to, depending on what kind of style of painting or subject matter you're working with. I think the key element with the Brick Lane set is the translucency, the liquid light that these pigments hold. It's mesmerising. I find it very addictive. I feel like I could just sit here and scoop and mix paint. Okay, so I found this set particularly intriguing, like the shocks of the ultramarine pink, which I thought was purple, but was actually pink. The two quinacridones we've had and the two benzes, which are just full of luminous light. The transparency of the paint I find really helpful in my own practice. I love tinting. I love paint that you can see the layers when the light shines through a painting. I find that really gorgeous. So I could definitely see myself working with this set a lot in the future, particularly with the aqua green as well. Like the jewel-like consistency and quality of this collection, I think just hits the nail on the head. I think this is the most excited I've been about with a new release of 10 new colours so far. I highly recommend them. I'm going to play a little bit more because I feel like I've just scratched the surface. I think particularly the Opera Rose is something that I would never use, and actually I'm thinking, well, why not? If you the way they tint colours, don't be afraid just because something is electric, thinking, oh no, it's too bright, I work very neutrally. They just enhance the paint and give them such a depth. And I think this is something I could incorporate in my own practice. Maybe you feel the same. So yeah, please do like and subscribe this channel. If there's anything we've kind of touched on with just exploring new colour, you know, do let us know in the comments below what you think. I'll add any links below that might be interesting for you with this collection. But yeah, just do let us know your thoughts. It's been great to explore these colours with you. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, bye guys.